When I knew I was going to be reading a Civil War diary, I was expecting sadness and loss. It goes without saying that there would be troubles. What I didn't expect is that one of the entries would make me snort-laugh in the library. I'm Carolyn Grimm. This is New England Time Travels. Today we are heading back to the American Civil War times, so I can introduce you to a fascinating young woman who left behind a diary of some of the crucial years in American history. I discovered the existence of the diary accidentally while I was researching something else entirely, which often happens. I was digging for information about a pastor from the 1800s whose house was 2 doors down from my childhood home. That research led me to a newsletter from the library at Radcliffe. It highlighted a diary in their collection of women's manuscripts, and the author of the diary was Phebe Beach, the pastor's niece who lived with them. She kept the diary from 1857 until 1862, important years in our history. Now, the newsletter highlighted some of the topics that Phebe covered, and it was fascinating. So I made the trip to the library to see if I could read it and transcribe it. Now, as I sat in that library reading room, it's a very formal space. There are windows, lights coming in from the windows, shining onto the tables. And it's a very quiet place, right? Because it's a library. So the librarian brings me this folder, and I open it up, and inside there is this blue composition book like students would have used in school back in those days. And it's written in pencil. Now, fortunately, Phebe had very good penmanship, something that historians always appreciate. I was trying to read and transcribe at the same time, but I got too involved with the details of her life to type. I got lost in her story. And as the story unfolded, I reached an entry that made me snort-laugh in that oh-so-serious library. When Phoebe was about 20 years old, she went to a neighboring town to teach school. And she receives a letter from her cousin, Nell Fessenden. Nell is the daughter of General Samuel Fessenden and the sister of William Pitt Fessenden. She's very well connected. And, well, I'll let Phoebe tell you the story. Nellie wanted I should call on her Aunt Keith's and do an errand for her. She wrote she wanted me to become acquainted with her cousins, Lydia Keith and the boys. Philip is an old batch, over 30 somewhat. Lydia is about 30 and Albion younger. None of them married or engaged, she writes. Now I guess I'll court up that old bachelor. That's what I thought when I read the letter. So last night I started and went up to call on Lydia. I met with a very cordial welcome. I told Lydia I had heard from Nell and did the errand she requested me to do with Mrs. Keith. I had a very pleasant call, and when I came to go home a little after 9, my friend the old batch got his hat and very politely waited on me home. And when we got there, shocking to relate, he kissed me. I was thunderstruck. I did not think of progressing like that the first night of my courtship. But I thought best not to get too excited over it, so I only remarked that I thought he was rather fast for a gentleman of his years. He said 'twas so seldom he got a chance to wait on a real likely girl, he thought he must make an impression somehow. Then he asked if I couldn't give him a kiss to remember me by. By that time I had got my breath, and I told him no, I wouldn't kiss him till I got a chance to scare him as bad doing it as he did me. Then I ran into the house, and Cousin Nancy asked me who I'd got for a beau. I told her a certain wise old demagogue, Philip, whose surname was Keith, a dweller in that land and one of her kindred. She laughed heartily and said she never heard of his waiting on a girl before since she lived in New Gloucester. She guessed he must mean something. I said I rather thought he meant to show me the way home. Then in a day or two the girls got to talking about Philip and Phoebe, and so it went. June 28, 1858. Tonight after school, Phil took me for a ride. Verily, my old batch is rather more docile than such animals usually are. I had quite a good time. We are beginning to plan for the 4th of July. Some of the girls go home, some go away to celebrations, and some stay here. Phil asked me tonight if I didn't want to go into Portland and see them celebrate the 4th. I did not give him a direct answer, though he rather urged it. He said, "We would go to General Fessenden's and see Nell and the rest and have a tip-top time." I would like to see Nellie very much, but I guess I shall tell him I can't go. I'm afraid the foolish old monkey twister will begin to court in earnest, and I couldn't go that nohow. He's a little too near his second childhood. I don't want a man quite 15 years older than I am, because he would get decrepit and infirm, etc., and so on. And then I should flirt with the young men, and then he would be jealous, and then he'd storm, and then I should scold, and then we should fight, and then he would sue for a divorce, and then he would get it if I could help him to it. And then we would part, and then I should have all the fuss and trouble of being courted again, and I should get rather sick at the stomach, and have the dyspepsia, and probably never see another well day, and thus my illustrious life would come to an ignominious end, and all on account of marrying my grandfather. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, Genesis 8:20. So I guess I'll not go to Portland, not knowing what it may lead to. 'Tis almost 11, and I must retire. Good night, old journal. It was then that I knew that Phoebe and I were, to quote Anne of Green Gables, kindred spirits. As war swept the country into tremendous peril and losses that would haunt generations, Phoebe's life soon grew very difficult and heartbreaking. When the diary ended on a very somber and shocking cliffhanger, I needed to know what happened to my new best dead friend. Did she come out of it okay? That question led me on a trail from Maine to Virginia, hunting for details. Her story was heartbreaking and hopeful, and it showed me a woman who withstood so many challenges in her life. It's a powerful story that you won't read in a history book. She was a small-town girl who happened to start a journal at a time when history was being made. If you're intrigued to find out more about her life and what came to pass, you can read her full story of challenges and triumphs in my book, Wild Sweeps the Wind, which is based on her diary. And if you want to learn more about the story behind the story of how Phebe Beach and I became best dead friends, I'll put a link to my website in the description, and you can get a copy of that story for free. Now, if you're wondering what happened to the old batch, his story is an intriguing one too, but that's a story for another day. So what's the funniest story in your family? What makes you snort laugh in inappropriate moments? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you again soon, somewhere in time.